Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video what I'm going to do is to introduce you to the operating system that you're going to work with for configuring and troubleshooting the routers. Of course, this is different on different platforms. Cisco has its own operating system, but again, Cisco has multiple of them. And for some of the devices, the version is going to be different. What I'm going to look at right now is going to be the regular iOS, and we are going to talk about that. Regular iOS, of course, these days is iOS XE. We have iOS XR on XR routers, which is most likely used in service provider networks. And also we have NXOS, which is used in data centers on mixed switches. Of course, they are very similar to each other with a little bit change of the syntax. You can easily work on all of them, but the basics, of course, is going to be almost the same. So this is going to be the Inter-Network Operating System, or iOS, Cisco iOS. And what I am talking about is applicable on all of these different versions of operating systems. So the first thing that you should know is Inter-Network Operating System is the name of the operating system that Cisco has on its own network devices. Like I said, on different platforms, this is going to be different. On Juniper, for example, they have Junos. On some other platforms, there are specific names for their operating system, and of course the syntax is going to be super different. Junos, of course, is completely another realm, but some devices like Arista switches, for example, have similar syntax with Cisco IOS. Also, there are some open networking operating systems, such as Sonic from Microsoft, or such as Arcus from IP Infusion. And there are some others that you can use them on generic devices, devices that have no operating systems installed on them. Cisco devices, of course, come by default with the operating system installed on them, and you can, of course, upgrade the operating system to the latest version just by downloading the latest version and install them, and then run it from there. So operating system, like very much similar to operating system on computers like Linux, like Mac OS, like Windows, manages different parts of the device. In our case, we are talking about interfaces, memory, and every network feature that we have on the switch or on the router, or maybe firewall actually. So you can think of the iOS as the brain of the Cisco router and switches, very much similar to what you have on different platforms. iOS runs on routers and switches, so we are going to take a look at the iOS, the syntax. You have seen this before, but you're going to be much more familiar with it. Newer devices run on iOS XE. There's a difference between something that we call it regular iOS and iOS XE. Regular iOS does not have any kernel. That's a separate operating system itself, but when you change it to Linux kernel, that's going to give you a very robust, much faster, much more upgradable, and much more scalable operating system. So iOS X is all about this regular iOS, but now with Linux kernel. So that's going to be much better than regular iOS. But of course, the syntax is exactly the same, so you see no difference between these two. So switches, of course, like new enterprise switches use iOS XE. We are going to explore this one. Wireless controllers like Catalyst 9800 series use this iOS XE. Routers like Cisco ASR and also CSR use this iOS XE, and also access point like Catalyst 9100 access points, of course. All of them are based on Cisco iOS. So the main job of this, of course, like I said, you're going to configure the device, you're going to manipulate the features, you're going to enable different features and configure them to achieve the goal that you have in your network. So what are the features that we are going to see? We have different features. Some of them, like this one, is going to be the most important one. Networking protocols. Of course, this is going to be run on the devices to make sure that routing is enabled. Also, switching has some protocols that we are going to explore in the later videos. All of them are based on the operating system. There is something that is called quality of service. When you have quality of service, you're going to manage the usage of the bandwidth, of the available bandwidth in your network by implementing features such as shaping, policing, and some kind of dropping. The other thing that you have is security and access control. We are going to explore different access lists. We are going to check different zone configuration and stuff like that. There is something that we call it management, and you can manage the device using CLI, which means command line interface, which most of the time you're going to be on it. And in recent implementations, of course, GUI or GUI, as some people call it, is going to be used. And also because now the later versions of iOS, which is called iOS 8Z, is based on Linux, that's going to be much more scalable and much more reliable. And there, of course, there are some features which are going to be installed on containers. Now, we're using a Linux kernel. Those containers, of course, can run much easier. So what is the CLI and what is GUI, and what is the difference between these two? Most of the time, of course, what you do is you're going to run some commands on CLI. In CLI, you have just typing the commands, and by typing the commands and entering each line, there is going to be an effective line of command in your device. So it is not like something like Junos that you have to type a few commands and after that commit all these changes. And if you do not commit, then they are not going to run. Most likely you're going to enter, and each command that you press enter is going to run instantly. On GUI, as a matter of fact, things are going to be a little bit different. You see everything just by clicking on different features, typing a few words or stuff like that, then configuration is going to be done. GUI, of course, is going to be more preferable in a lot of cases because it can show you a lot of information just in one page. But with CLI, of course, obtaining the information is going to be a little bit harder. So you're going to be more familiar with GUI later, specifically if you go with some other types of devices or you go with software-defined networking, which is going to be super important for you, like SD access in enterprise networks, SD-WAN in wide area networks, or something like ACI and Nexus dashboard in data center networks. So how are you going to access your routers or switches? The devices that you have most likely have a console port on the back of the device, or maybe some of the devices, of course, on the front. But in here, and how do you tell which part of the device is the back and which part is front? Most likely, where you see these badges, of course, is going to be the front of the device. But in different environments, that's going to be a little bit different. Sometimes you install this device based on the airflow inside the device, the airflow that fans run inside the device, just to make sure that the device is going to cool. But in here, actually, what we have is this console port, as you can see. Some of the devices that you connect to this device, you see that there is a USB console port, the newer devices, of course. The older ones have some serial port. You have different types of connectors. On the left, as you can see, this is the serial connector to the device. As you can see in this new device, you can just connect to that using the serial port, using this USB port, and then you can connect the other side of the USB to your laptop, and then the connection is going to be established using the terminal software that we are going to see one of them in a few minutes. The other one, which is a little bit older, as you can see, this is a serial port on older devices. There is, of course, adapters that you can connect, and they are going to convert the serial port into USB port if you are using still this kind of cable, but you want to convert it to USB so that you can connect to the newer devices as well. And there is another cable that you can see. This is a regular RJ45 connector. You can use this for in-band management. We are going to talk about this in a few seconds. So when you connect to this console port, what you are doing is out-of-band management. Now, newer devices, in addition to this console port, they have something which is called a management port. So for some newer devices, such as, let's say, XR routers or NXOS switches, you see this management port, which is most likely on the back of the device, and you can connect to that management port using a normal connector like this RJ45 connector. And we're going to talk about this in a second, but you should know that out-of-band management network is going to be a little bit different from the normal network that you have in here. The other type of connection that you have is going to be using the terminal software. The terminal software, I wouldn't say this is another type of connection. This is a way to connect to the CLI. You can just connect using this terminal software via Telnet or SSH. SSH, of course, is going to be much more secure, so you're going to use this one. Telnet is kind of old style. It doesn't have security, but of course, it's going to be very useful when you work in your lab and you do not really want to install a certificate or go through the hassles of running secure shell inside your device. So, what kind of a management can we have? There are two types of management connections that we have. One of them is called out-of-band management. Out-of-band management says that the network that you have is not going to be used for connecting to the device. Say this is one of the routers, this is another one of the routers, this is another one of the routers, and say each one of these routers are connected to the network using different ports. So one of the ports, of course, is connected to this network that we have in here. Okay, so can we use this network to connect to our switch and our switch router and then run different commands? Of course, this is possible. If you want to do this, you can specify a separate VLAN for that. We're going to talk about VLAN later. You can specify a separate VLAN for that, and the traffic for management of the devices are going to use that VLAN to get to the device. This is called in-band management over the network. You can connect using secure shell, or you can connect using Telnet. Of course, this is very much possible. The other way is going to be the out-of-band management. You can see some of the devices, like I said, have their own console port or their own management port. So they are going to be used. If that is a management port, that's going to be a separate network, or maybe another VLAN inside the actual network. But of course, that's going to be connected to a separate VLAN. Or we can have console port that you just run this, you just take your laptop, for example, and connect to this console port and then start managing this. But this is going to be just for the beginning of the configuration. You do not really use this kind of a connection for much longer than the initial configuration. After that, you should make sure that the console port is secure. There is a password on that, and nobody can reach to this if there is a physical access to the device easily. If somebody has a physical access to the device and there is no password set on this serial or on this management port, on this console port, what is going to happen is the person can easily change the configuration and disrupt the network. So this is part of the physical security that you're going to have in place. So which one is going to be better? If you have out-of-band port, which is connected to a specific network, using the management port, that's going to be much better, of course, because you separate your management traffic from normal transit traffic that you have in your network. That's going to be better. But of course, if you don't have it, then in-band, of course, is a must-have. But most likely, you're going to have an out-of-band management network in your facility. So what happens when you start a router or a switch? When you start a router or a switch, the first thing that is going to happen is a post procedure, which is power on self-test. During this, every part of the physical device is going to be checked. The RAM, the CPU, the network cards, they're going to be checked to make sure that there is no fault. If there's a fault, that's going to be displayed so that you can understand there is a problem in the device so that you can fix it. After this is successfully done, we have the iOS, which is the operating system, loading. So this can be loaded from different types of memories that we have on the device. We can have boot flash memory, we can have NVRAM, which is much better, faster, and we can have different other types of storages. But these, so of course, are going to be very much more what do you call it? Common. After loading iOS, startup configuration, which is a series of commands, of course, are going to be read from NVRAM and they are going to be executed. This means that now the configuration is applied to the device itself. The configuration is loaded into RAM, but of course, this is going to be what we call it a running configuration, which means that the configuration which is loaded in the RAM of the device. And if there is no configuration, so that we cannot load any configuration, what is going to happen is the device is going to enter setup mode. Okay, in this lab of how I have multiple types of two types of devices actually. You can see that there are some regular iOS devices and there is this iOS XZ device. I'm just going to go towards this one. This is going to be much better. I'm just going to start this. And when I start this, I'm just going to connect the console port. Here, of course, in the lab, connecting the console port is going to be very easy. You just hit the device and device is going to automatically open the Telnet software, which is used by default. In my case, for example, this is going to be secure CRT. Or you can go to another mode, which is HTML5 console, and it's going to open a new tab for you in here. But that's going to show you the configuration. You can see that I am connected to the console, and the different messages are appearing in here. But of course, if you have your laptop and your device, like your router or switch, connected to each other using the console port, what you're going to do is you open this kind of a software like PuTTY, Secure CRT, TerraTerm, stuff like that. Then you're going to select Connect and or Quick Connect based on the device based on the software that you have. And here you're going to select a protocol as serial because you're directly connected to the serial port. Then you're going to select the port which is connected to your device. In my case, there's only one COM port, and that's going to be COM1. And then the baud rate is going to be normally 9600. Based on the device, of course, this might be different. You need to take a look at the instruction of the device. For example, on some of the Nexus switches, it has to be 38,000 something. But in here, 9600 is going to be the one. Then you're going to click on the connect button, and then it is going to show you the connection, and everything is going to start showing up in here. The device loading, for example, right now, is appearing for me. Okay, the router is up and running, and right now you can see that this is in enable mode or privilege mode. You can tell this by just checking this sharp sign or pound sign, or some people call it hashtag. This is in front of the prompt. This means that right now I am in enable mode. So why did this not go into user mode? The reason for that is there is no password set for console port. I'm just going to show you the configuration right now. And there is a basic configuration for this. And again, you can tell this because you do not really see any setup mode in here. If you saw a setup mode, this means that there is no configuration for this specific device in here. Let me just add another device here. Maybe this goes into setup mode and I can tell you, I can show it to you. So this is going to be a switch, and this is going to have a switch icon. Let's just go for this switch icon. So let's say that this is an L3 switch. As I'm just going to select it, and then I'm just going to click on save so that it's going to be added, and I'm just going to run this. And as soon as I run this, I'm just going to connect to the console port. I just showed you how you can do this, but this is, like I said, lab inside the eBench. As a matter of fact, we don't have a physical console port, but this is mimicking how you can connect to the console port. So no, it went directly into, as you can see, into the privilege mode again. So based on the device that you have, this is going to be a little bit different. But what I'm going to show you here is how can I go to different modes. First of all, let's just type exit. I can type exit or disable, doesn't matter. Right now, I'm just going to type exit and go into this mode. As you can see, right now, this is kind of idle. And this happens when you connect first time to the console. You see this page, and it says that press return or enter to get started. I'm just going to press enter. As you can see, this is going to take me to a privilege mode. There is a banner. Banner means this written text that is here. This is in the document. This is in the configuration as well. So you can just change this banner later. But right now you can see that this banner is showing up, and also I am in privilege mode again. Now what I'm going to do is to do this. I'm just going to type disable. Instead of exiting me from the command CLI, if I hit enter, this is going to take me to the user mode. One of the reasons that this device directly goes to privilege mode, not to the user mode, like I said, is there is no console password. And when there is no console password, because this user mode has very little privileged, as a matter of fact, the privilege level is 1 out of 15. And there are very few commands that you can run here. Most devices just skip this, and the newer devices do not even have user mode in them. They directly go to privilege mode. Now I'm just going to type enable. This is going to take me back to privilege mode. So if I want to see different output from different commands, this is the place that I can go for that. If I press a question mark, type a question mark, you can see that there is a list of commands that appear in here. In the end, you can see this more. That is because pagination is enabled. Later, you are going to see how pagination can be disabled or enabled, or the number of lines that you can see here can change. But right now, you can see that if I press enter, another page is going to appear for me, and if I press space, sorry. If I press space, another page is going to appear for me. If I press enter, another line is going to appear for me. So most likely, I'm just going to go for another page. Another page, you can see that these are all the commands that you can run inside privilege mode. Very few of these commands are for configuration. Most of them are just some show commands, and very little of these, of course, can configure stuff like, for example, the clock command can configure something. That is it. So if I want to go to configuration mode, I need to type configure terminal. So of course I can abbreviate this, but this is the complete command, and enter it. And you can see that now in front of the name of the device, you can see this prompt that says config, which means that I am in configuration mode. Now if I want to go into sub-configuration mode based on the command that I'm using, there are some sub-configuration modes that I can go to those. For example, I can say interface, let's say G00, this is going to be gigabit 00, hit enter. This is going to take me into sub-interface configuration or interface configuration. You can see that in front of the name of the device, which is by default IOS in my case, you can see it says config if. I can exit this just by typing exit. I can type, for example, rather, let's say OSPF1, hit enter. This is going to take me into router configuration. So there are a lot of sub-configuration modes that you are going to be familiar with this. Each one of them, you can just type exit and you're going to exit in here. Now, whenever you want to go from this level into privilege mode, which means that you're going one level down, what you're going to do is to type end. End is going to take you back to privilege mode. Disable is going to take you back to user mode, and exit is going to exit from the command CLI. So this is how you go through between different modes. But how can you secure this process? Because let's say, for example, I am inside the server room or inside the data center. What I am doing here is I'm trying to access the device, and accessing the device is very easy for me because I can see the device. I can take my laptop, I can just connect my USB port to the console port of the switch or to the router, and then I can do whatever configuration that I want to do. Now, if I want to destroy the configuration, this is very easy for me. I can change the configuration in a way that device doesn't work properly and everything is going to go down. But you need to make sure that this doesn't happen. So console ports should be kind of secured. How can you do that? Once again, I'm just going to go back into privilege mode, I'm just going to show you the running configuration. So if you say show running configuration and hit enter, this is going to show you the whole configuration that is right now in place. This is not going to be too much lines because right now I have not done a lot of configuration. All I have done is this is loading the basic configuration into the RAM. So if I just go down and I'm just going to go to the end of the configuration, you can see this is the banner that I spoke about that. If I go down, you can see this says the line console, which is the console port, and there are a few commands under this line console. For example, the timeout is 00, which means that this is going to be the default timeout, but you can increase it or decrease it. There is a privilege level of 15, which means that as soon as you enter, you are going to have the highest privilege level. You can run any command that you want to, and that is it. I'm just going to make sure that when someone enters, he or she has to type a password in here. There are multiple ways for that. Well, the easiest way is to configure the password command under that. So I need to go to configuration mode. I'm just going to abbreviate everything to the least possible. Configure terminal candy type conf-d, hit enter. Then I'm just going to say line console 0. So hit enter. Under this, there is a command. I just pressed question mark. And if I just go down the list of commands, you can see that a lot of commands are here, but the one that I am looking for is this password command. So I can just type password. There might be another command which is secret. Is there any secret command in here? No, there is none. So I can just type password. Later I will tell you what is the difference between secret and password command in here. And after that, it says, what kind of a password are you typing here? I'm just typing Cisco, and then I'm just going to explain what this 0, 7, and line means in here. You just type password, for example, Cisco. This means that the password is going to be Cisco. This is very obvious password, of course. You have to go with a very complex password. So what is 0? 0 says that you're just typing the password. So you can say password 0, and you mean by 0 that whatever I am typing is exactly what it is. So if you say password 0 Cisco, the password is going to be exactly Cisco, right? So hit enter. This is very much similar to what I had here. So if you say password Cisco, this is by default is going to be password for you. So this is unencrypted. 7 means that this password is an encrypted hash of the actual password. So the actual password might be something else, but you don't know that, but you know that this is a hash and you are entering that. So when you are entering that, you have to say, this is password 7, which means that the actual password is not this is a hash of that password. So you're just entering that password in there. Because I don't have the hash, so I cannot really type anything in here, but you should know that that is going to be a series of characters that are totally different from what you see in here. And line means whatever the default is. In my case, default is 0. So when you type the line, which means that this, whatever it is, that is exactly what you're doing. So line is not a word. Line says that just type in whatever that you want to have in here. Okay, now that I have done this, I'm just going to type end to exit configuration mode. I'm going to type WR or copy running config startup config to make sure that the configuration is saved to the files, and hit enter. It says the building configuration. This is saving a configuration into a file. I can say dir and hit enter. You can see that this is the config that we have saved right now. And what I'm going to do is to say disable, and I can even say exit, and then this is going to take me out of the console. Now it says that if you want to enter again, you have to press enter. So I hit enter. This time this is going to take me here, and it should have another line that I just forgot. Let me just go to configure terminal. I'm just going to go to console line console 0. I set the password, but I forgot to say login. When you say login, this means that you need to enter the password. So if I say show run, I'm just going to pipe it to begin from line, hit enter. So if I say do showdown, because I am in configuration mode, I have to type do in front of that. This part of the configuration now has a password and it has the login command, which means that now I have to enter the command. So I'm just going to say int wr. I'm just going to say exit. Now if I hit enter, this is going to ask me for password. So I can type the password, which was Cisco, hit enter, and this is going to take me back into the privilege mode. Or if I want to, I can just type disable and it takes me into user mode. So this is how you configure a password and secure your console. Let's go back to the slides, take a look at what we have in here. So we checked powering up, we checked setup mode, like I said, because my configuration had a basic configuration loaded, so it didn't really go into setup mode. But most likely, even if it went into setup mode, I would say no, I want to configure this manually, because most of the things should be configured manually. And here we just configured a password for user access, and you saw that by typing the password and typing the login command, we have to now enter a password to enter the device. So we have different modes, as you can see, and you can use different keywords to go from one mode to another mode. For example, from user mode, when you want to go to privilege mode, which is called enable mode as well, you have to type just en or enable. When you go from this mode to configuration mode, you have to type configure terminal or conft for short. And of course, these modes come one after the other, which means that there is a hierarchy to that. You need to go to user mode, and after that to privilege mode, and after that to global configuration mode, and after that to interface configuration mode, or router configuration mode, or route map configuration mode, protocol configuration mode. A lot of different configuration modes can be configured there, and all of them are like a hierarchy in here. Let's just wrap up. So iOS is the network operating system that we use, and we have different versions of iOS. Regular iOS is the one that we are working with. iOS XE is very much similar to regular iOS, but the kernel is a little bit different from regular iOS. There is a Linux kernel for that, which means that it is expandable, it is scalable, and we can have some new features installed on that. And also we have iOS XR, which is used for XR routers, which is most likely you can see them in service provider networks, which are very big. And also we have Nexus OS, which is very much similar to iOS XE, but with some more features actually related to Nexus switches. So I hope you have liked this video. Press that like button, please. That's going to encourage us to make more videos for you. Also subscribe and hit that bell button so that you can be notified whenever there is a new video. Hope to see you in the later videos.